Hi, I'm your host, Jade.
And I'm your host, Emma.
And welcome to
Lashing Out and Nailing Life. Okay. Today we're talking about work-life balance.
Which we both struggle with.
Ooh. It's hard.
That's just the reality of being a business owner.
Yeah.
I don't know where you want to start with this because there's a lot of different branches.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about work-life balance, people go to like, when do you stop working?
Mm-hmm.
But when you are the only person running your own business, you don't. Like, you do have to work 24/7, so it's really just about boundaries more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, maybe boundaries is a good place to start. Just because, like, I give myself Monday. Monday is my day that no matter what, even if I'm going on vacation, I don't do anything on Monday.
That's fair.
So that way I know, like, with my schedule, I can always, I can, like, schedule my doctor's appointments.
That's
and, like,
fair.
things like that. So I definitely do that. And then the thing I can't do is some people are like, oh, I hard stop after my office hours.
Hours are up. Yeah.
But I don't have time to respond to stuff, like, during the day.
Yeah.
So I
'Cause it's a
typically
hands-on
have
job.
to do it after. So I typically am, like, reasonable, like, okay, you messaged me at midnight. I'm not responding.
Yeah, I think when it comes to clients, it's just creating that boundary of when do you reply. Because, like, my thing is when I look at the clock and it's 9 p.m., well, if they're texting me after 9 p.m., I'm not going to reply. And if I haven't replied to them yet, I also think 9 p.m. is not necessarily a reasonable time.
Right.
So I also cut off replying. And then I think I typically start replying again at, like, 8 a.m.
Right. I typically will do that. Like, okay, I woke up and now I'm replying. It's definitely important to have those boundaries because we're all on our phones all the time. And it's hard to, if you're like doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, to be like, oh, somebody just texted me and it's 11:30.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to set that, even if it's like subliminally, like, oh, I'm not going to respond. Then clients go, oh, she does not text me past 9. I'm going to only text her between 8 and 9. Or, you know. So.
I mean, my new favorite thing is, I know Android, I think, has had it forever, but Apple just added scheduling out texts.
Oh.
So if I do think about replying to something and it's past 9 p.m., I will go and schedule it to send immediately at 8 a.m. the next day in case I forget again in the morning.
See, I didn't even know that was a feature. I should look into that.
Yeah, I don't know. Apple just added it in the latest update, and it's become my favorite thing.
I also have a separate phone app, which
so
I
you might
know
not be
is
able to.
also not for everyone, and it is Google Voice. I should still look for, like, my friends and stuff, but I did that too because, like, this last week, I took off, and so I muted the app so I could still get texts from, like, you and, like, our friends and it's, again, setting those boundaries because, like, I'm also changing and building a whole new website. So I did end up checking my messages probably, like, last Thursday or something. And somebody was like, your website's down. And I was like, oops, that's from 3 days ago. But all my clients know that I'm on vacation.
Yeah, that's true.
So it just kind of depends. Or, like, I even just got a text from a client who was like, oh, I know you're on vacation, so no rush. But, like, could you tell me when my appointment was? And part of me was like, I should wait. But I was like, no, I can tell her when her appointment is. So it does help because, especially with social media marketing, you're constantly just, like, working and working. And if you're not doing that, then you have to do your end of month report. And if you're not doing that, then you have to schedule out all the messages you have, or, like, it's a lot. And again, having, like, a day where you're like, this is my day, that you always know is going to be the day.
Yeah.
Then that helps too.
Yeah, that's kind of what Thursdays have been for me since I had therapy on that day. So it's like a no work day because if anybody goes to therapy, it's a very taxing activity. And once you've done that, you don't need to do anything else for the day. Yeah,
I feel like too, like, socially draining. Like, it's socially draining even though it's just you and your therapist.
No, it's a lot. Especially depending on what you're talking about that day. Yeah, so I feel like Thursdays have always been that day for me. But I've never actually, like, rock solid told myself that I'm not going to do anything. So I like that.
Yeah, having that day. And there's a couple times I give, like, if I'm leaving for a trip on Tuesday, then I'll work, like, half a day on Monday just because I know. But, that I, like, need to work. But, and that's something else too, is knowing when to.
I feel like we all have that flexibility.
Yeah.
Because you have to fit people in before and after your trips, because it's not their fault that you're going on vacation, and you do have to keep in mind
when you
their
still have to
schedule.
like get paid.
Yeah.
Like we don't get paid time off.
No, what's that like?
Gosh,
I just think
I
it's funny
know.
when my friends that do work for somebody and get paid, they complain that they don't have enough PTO, and I'm like, at least you have some. Like, if I'm out, I'm out.
Or like my boyfriend's job, he will build up a lot of paid time off, but they just like won't let him take it. Like it's borderline like it's borderline
Yeah.
like I don't like them. But he will have like a good 2 weeks worth, and they will still be like, well, we're going to be really understaffed. And I'm like, he's going on vacation.
Yeah, he's out of town, so
This
he
is
can't
side
be
rant.
here.
This is why I don't want to get off topic, but like I went from being the least flexible in my friend group because the salon I worked at required me to give them 2 months notice,
Good grief.
to being the most flexible because it used to be my boyfriend was the most flexible because he only had to give 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
And now there's stuff that I plan that he can't do because even though he could give them 2 weeks, he just knows that they'll tell him, oh, well, we're going to be really understaffed, or so-and-so is out of town that week, so you can't go out of town that week. And I'm like, what? This is awful. Yeah. Like, I wanted to take him back to see my family in a few months for my grandma's birthday. And he was like, oh, well, I'll be taking time off before that. And I was like, oh, are you using all your paid time off? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh, so they won't let you take? And he's like, no, it's too close together. They won't let me do it. And I was like...
Whereas I did back-to-back trips this year.
Well, I'm like, I just took off for the holidays and I'll be taking off again in February. Like, so, I don't know. It's definitely weird.
And I mean, like, that's one of the nicest things, is having the flexibility. But again, you have to be careful how you use it, because if you're not in, you're not getting paid.
Yeah. And some people have to keep in mind, too, like, because I have run into other beauty people, who are just like, oh, I'm taking it off and I'm taking it off and I'm not scheduling people around it. And then they complain when they lose half their clientele from taking all these trips that are 2 weeks long.
Exactly.
And
when you're supposed to see them every 2 to 3 weeks, that just doesn't line up.
Crazy. So it's good. And it's good to take breaks. Like, don't think like it's not good to take breaks.
Oh, no, 100%.
You should definitely take breaks.
It's just you have to factor in the rotation of your clientele.
And be like courteous. And again, coming from like a client's perspective, if I was getting my nails or lashes or hair or anything done with someone that I needed to see regularly, and they were taking all these trips, I'm going to find someone else, or taking all these breaks even, I'm going to find someone else.
Yeah, especially if it just doesn't work with your schedule either.
Right.
Because I have tons of clients that travel, so I do have to be careful about my trips versus their trips. Mm-hmm. And I do, to the best of my ability, try to make them line up. Mm-hmm. But if I have a trip that's planned by my family, that's kind of out of my hands.
Right.
And I always feel bad when I'm telling them, hey, I'm off these 2 weeks, and they're like, oh, well, I leave halfway through that second week, you're gone. And I'm like, sorry.
Yeah. But again, that's part of the boundary setting, is like when I took off for the holidays, I was like, I'm taking a week and a half off, and I'm taking that week, and I had to work every day the week before, and I have to work every day the week after, but I'm taking that break, and my clients were all like, good for you. Like, you work a lot. Take that break. Yeah. And the people who were mad about it, I don't care if you come back. So
yeah, they're just not your people.
Yeah. That's something that's setting those boundaries with your clients. Again, if they're not going to respect your boundaries, then they're not for you.
And that was like one of the points I had to go into, is like I went through a really traumatic and like grieving situation last year, and it's those situations that you find out who your like closest guests and the guests that respect you in your time are. Mm-hmm. Because the number that I had drop off because I had to take time off to take care of myself was wild to me, because it's like, yes, I understand you want your lashes done, or you want your facial done, or you want your brows done. But to be rude about the fact that I'm not coming in because I'm grieving and processing is just crazy to me.
Yeah. People really just think like, you're here to serve.
Yeah, like, 100%. Or the world just revolves around them, and they're not used to being told no. Because there were a couple where I got that kind of vibe from, where they've always managed to get what they want. So the fact that they were like, oh, well, you'd only have to come in for an hour and a half. Like, I just need you to touch them up. And I'm like, I mean, unless you want me
Not
pouring
them
tears.
telling you what your schedule should be. It's only going to be an hour and a half.
Unless you want me pouring tears all over your face, you don't want me servicing you. Like, I promise.
All their lashes are crooked because you're like...
I can't see straight.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, so it's just setting those boundaries of, it's like, yes, you're gonna find those people that are gonna be pushy and think the world revolves around them, but you can't bend to them. Yeah. Because if you bend to them once, they're going to expect you to do it all the time. Because I guarantee we've all made that mistake where we're like, yeah, okay, you can come in. Like, I don't work Fridays. You can come in this one Friday. Then for the next, like, 4 months, they're like, well, I can make Friday work. And I'm like, I told you that was a one-off.
Yeah. That was actually one of the biggest tips I got from a more seasoned person in the beauty industry. Was she told me her example was Saturday. And she was like, if you don't want to work Saturday, don't book people on Saturday, because then you will build a clientele that can only come in on Saturdays. Yeah. And so that's why, like, I make sure, like, I kind of use Saturdays as like a last minute, like, oh no, you broke a nail and you're going on a trip, or oh, if you don't get in this week, then you won't get in for 7 weeks. Like, yeah. But I still, with my boundaries, I only take 1, maybe 2 clients Saturday morning early. One, I'm the type of person that needs something to, like, get them out of bed. Yeah. And so I'm off Mondays and Tuesdays too. And Mondays are easier because I just have stuff to do. So then it starts me for the week. Yeah. But Saturdays, I find, like, if I have that client in the morning, then it, like, gets me out of bed, gets me going. I then, like, want to go to the gym or the grocery store. Yeah. So then it's benefiting me to take that client versus if I on the days that I don't and I don't have anything that, like, needs to get done, I will literally, like, rot in my pajamas. So it is good to kind of have, and I have clients that I know who, like, respect those boundaries and they don't expect to get a Saturday every single time. Yeah. I have a couple teachers who come after school, and if they come in on a Saturday most of the time, they don't want to come in on a Saturday again. They want, 'cause
that's one of their days off.
They want to come in after school.
Yeah, definitely working your hours and your hours only, because otherwise clients adjust to walking all over your schedule.
Mm-hmm. They sure do. And not a lot of times it's not even them being, like, malicious or thinking about it. It's just it's
just you've given them that opportunity before, so they just assume it's always there.
Yep. And I also try to do, like, okay, I'm only gonna work so many Saturdays in a month, especially if I had a really full week, because that's something else too. Is, like, I would rather work 2 clients on Saturdays and have 2 gaps during the week. Yeah. Than not take anyone on Saturday, but also miss out on 2 spaces during the week.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, I think the big thing as well is planners. Like, as a business owner, you have to schedule everything, because otherwise you're just going to lose track of what you're doing.
That's another thing you have to find that, like, works for you and your brain, because I've tried book planners. Yeah. And I always forget it. And I actually bought one that was, you can fill in the month and the day yourself. Oh, okay. And I thought, this will be, I was like, this will be great, because if I forget about it for 5 years, I can go back and use it if it ends up being something that I want to use. But honestly, like, just having my online booking calendar and my personal calendar, especially like the Google one, because it syncs with all my stuff, then I just have to look at those 2, and I put everything in both, which I never thought I was going to do. But that's, like, if I have, and it's not like little things like go to the grocery store. It's like, oh, especially with my Saturdays, like, oh, you had lunch plans with friends. I'm putting that in my work schedule and my personal schedule. Or, like, I have on Mondays, because I have appointments, and even though Mondays are my days, occasionally I will randomly book someone at 9 a.m. on a Monday. And it has happened where I've booked them, and then I had a doctor's appointment, and I was like, oh, crap. Yeah. So now I put them in both, just so I don't accidentally go, oh, yeah, I could just fit you in on that day because I'm feeling like it.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I've always struggled with planners, and it's one of those things when you're, like you said, like, when you're scheduling an appointment at one place, you have to check both calendars. Mm-hmm. So this year, you said it doesn't work for you, but this year I'm really going to try and settle into using a planner, because I'm hoping a physical writing it down planner will work better for me, because I've always been, like, more of a highlighter girl when it comes to taking notes in books and that. And then when I'm, like, journaling, I prefer to do pen and paper instead of typing.
And you carry, like, a bag. I mean, like,
not everywhere. It's just more so for work
things. That's how I got out of the planner thing. I switched from a big bag to my little like fanny pack
Yeah.
thing. And then I was like, oh, I don't have my planner with me anymore.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So we'll see how it goes.
We'll see. That's your New Year's resolution.
I mean, my biggest problem is with my calendar on my phone, I never put in any of the small to-do lists. And I don't even like putting those in my notes on my phone because I can't physically check them off, and clicking the button is not as satisfactory as like actually checking it off or crossing it off. So that's why I got a paper planner, because my calendar only gets my big things. Yeah. And then that's one of the reasons that I'm so bad at like social media posting and all of that, because I'm not properly scheduling my time.
So that's something else I switched to this year, was because I don't use planners. I found a stack of like a thick to-do list book.
Oh, okay.
So now, like, on the days when I have stuff to do, and I got one for the studio and one for here, because I was like, I'm gonna forget one at one place and I'm gonna need it. So I have like my studio one, which is like, oh, don't forget you need to do this before you leave. Don't forget you need to do this. Don't forget you should do this, like, before I leave.
Yeah.
And then if it's something that I need to do when I get home, I can like rip it out because it's just paper, and then I bring it home. And then I have one for here that's like, oh, you need to take this to the studio, fair. And don't forget about that. And that's worked a lot better, again, for me, instead of the planner, because the planner, it's like I would go to a date and then I would forget that I wrote it down on that date versus like seeing it in list form.
I'm definitely thinking appointment wise, I'm going to just write them all in my phone calendar first, like for the big things. So then I can transcribe them, because what I want to do ideally, because I have Sundays off, is sit down every Sunday morning and write out the whole week. And because I'm so bad at managing any free time I have, I want to micromanage myself. So like by the hour, that's what I do on Mondays. Doing. Yeah. So that's my goal. So I think, yeah, like things that are a month or like even a week or two out, I think 100% will go in my phone first, and then on that Sunday.
And do it like week by week.
Yeah.
That would work. Like I could.
So we'll see.
I don't know.
I just need to micromanage myself, because currently I'm not managing myself at all.
Well, and that's why it's important to like hear different ideas and stuff, because I didn't even think about to-do lists until I think I was like watching someone else or watching like something. I was seeing something else and I was like, oh my gosh, they have a to-do list. I should just buy an old-fashioned to-do list. And then I did get some notebooks. Again, I have one at the studio and one here for like big things that I need to physically like write to remember. So like price increasing, I like to physically write down in a notebook and like compare what I need to do. And when I do my reports, I like to like physically write things down and have it in my notebook, and then I put it in my computer. And so definitely finding what works for you and how you learn and remember things.
Yeah, it's different for everybody.
Because the reason I thought planners would work so well is because in school, I lived by my planner.
That's why I'm hoping it'll work. But
so
we'll see.
We'll see.
I need
that's
to
my phrase. That's my phrase for the last 3 months is we'll see. We'll see.
Well, you just mentioned price increases, and I think that's something that
it's
really
another
comes
boundary.
With boundaries for sure. Because talking to my hairdresser, and she's had her own business. I think she started her own business in 2020, but it's worked out for her. But I remember when I was first going to do a price increase at my business, and I was talking about like grandfathering in my older clients, and she was like, don't do it. But just don't. And I think that's probably the best advice I ever got. And all I did when I did my price increase was I made a little newsletter, and it was a paper newsletter. So I was giving it to all my guests in person, and it had an explanation as to like, hey, I invested in this new table for you guys to lay on during your services. I've gone and taken some new classes this year. This was when I moved to studios, so like I moved to a higher end studio suite for you guys to increase your experience, and like that's why I'm having to raise my prices. And just by handing that out, and it just listed the prices and what they were going to be, I don't think I had a single person that was put off by it.
Yeah, I was really nervous about raising my prices last year, because this past year, I guess I should say. Because the year before that was my first year. I was still part-time in my studio. Yeah. So my prices were cheap because I was just like trying to get people in so I could do it full-time. Yeah. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be raising them so much and like everyone's going to leave. And I think I ended up only losing like 2 clients, and it wasn't even like they told me and I noticed. Like I just was like, hey, I haven't seen them in a while. Yeah. Huh? And price increasing is scary, but
Oh, it's definitely one of the harder things to do.
Oh, it's so...
I think when you make it, like, more personable, though, like, with the physical newsletter, they have an understanding of, oh, this is why you have to increase the prices.
I was just thinking about sending out a text message marketing because I don't have the patience to make cute little newsletters. But I should make it maybe more personal in there because I was just like, that's the thing too, is you hear all these conflicting things when you take classes or when you hear advice, and you don't really know like what works for you and your clients. And so I do think you kind of have to gauge like the personalities of people.
Oh yeah, and the people you're servicing.
And if they like the more personable approach, then they love physical things, then that's really good. I think that like my clients don't like, again, they don't care. Like I had a client, I sent out policy changes where I was like, if you're booking nail art, you have to send it to me 48 hours ahead of time because you guys are sending me crazy stuff and you're showing me day of, and sometimes I have to figure out how to do it sometimes, and I have to look at the picture for a while or text you and be like, girl, you have too much faith in me. Like that's too much. And I had one client who she came in and she showed me her picture and I said, oh, that's really cute. We don't have time for that. Did you get my text message about like sending it to me ahead of time? And she went, oh yeah, I did. But I said I didn't care if your policies changed. Like she was like, she didn't care if my policies changed because she was going to still come to see me anyways. And I was like, okay, well, the policies were more than just like cancellation fees. Like it was like, please send me pictures. Yeah. And she was like, oh, okay. And like, she was sorry about it. But, so I don't know. Now I'm debating what I should do. Because... I don't know.
My clientele is it's probably split 50-50 at this point, mature versus younger. But I know my mature clientele for sure really prefer like the personable things. I mean, even for my Christmas presents for my clients.
Right.
This past Christmas, I wrote each of them a handwritten card that was cute. Personalized to them.
Yeah, I do think maybe that's what I should do, is just print out a few for my older, like more mature clients, or clients that I know never look at their text messages, because some of you 20-year-olds be doing that too.
I don't look at mine.
So I wonder if I should do like maybe 50-50, or because the messaging will send it to everyone, and then I can like have physical ones to hand out too.
As well. Mm-hmm.
Last year I did my prices going from this to this. My price for this is going from this to this. But this year I'm doing things across the board, ranging from $2 increases to $5 increases. And so I'm like, I didn't want to write it all out. But
no, I just put these are the new prices. I mean, I changed my whole pricing system because I used to individually price classics, hybrids, volumes, and I don't even really offer classics anymore. Mm-hmm. I do angels instead anyways. And then I would have different fill prices for the 3 different kinds of lash sets I was offering, and I was even pivoting that to now a full set is $220, and my 2-week fill is $85, my 3-week fill is $105, and if you need to come in for a 1-week touch-up, it's $55.
I do think minimizing it helps clients a lot.
Well, Maddie of Lightheart, when I was listening to her podcast, she cut down her whole menu because she compared it to restaurants. And if you walk into, no offense if you like the Cheesecake Factory, but if you walk into the Cheesecake Factory, they have that giant menu of probably 100 different options. Their food ain't great. If you walk into a high-end restaurant with high prices, they got a list of like five meals that they specialize in, and you know that food's going to be higher quality.
That's a good comparison, because I've heard it too with just like with nails. Like some people think they have to offer acrylic because it's popular, or they have to offer dip because it's popular, or they have to offer gel X because it's popular. And I don't offer extensions anymore. Like they had said like niche down, because if you niche down, people know that you're focusing specialize. And you specialize. Yeah. And I think, too, people misunderstand that with, like, niching down, and they think, like, well, that means I can only do regular gel manicures, and it's like, no. You can just either focus on acrylic, focus on dip, which I hate, or focus on gel, and then I focused on gel. Like, I was regular gel manicures, structured gel manicures, and extensions, and then extensions got to a point where I did not enjoy doing them anymore, and I only had 5 clients that were doing it. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to do it. It takes me twice as long as all my other services. Yeah. I don't even enjoy it. I actually thought I hated the clients that were getting it like the clients. And then when we switched them over, I was like, oh, I don't hate you.
Just hated what
I just doing. Hated what we were doing. And it opened up my books more to be able to fit in like
Yeah.
more people. So because I was focusing on things that I was faster at and specializing in.
Yeah.
So yeah, and stand your ground, put your foot down. Because people, like, again, if they don't want to respect your increases, it's insulting, because like we have to live. You can't just have pricing to cover the cost of the service. Things are expensive, and people, I think a lot, again, going back to like what we touched on in our last episode, like people see beauty stuff as a hobby. They don't think about, oh yeah, you have to like pay rent.
I think people forget it's the full-time job.
Yeah.
Because the other issue that comes along with it is when people don't show up for their appointments and they don't want to pay, and it's like, well, you don't understand. You took a slot that somebody else could have taken and they could have been paying me. You're not showing up, therefore I'm making no money. Like, bottom line, I'm making no money from this appointment time because now you're not here. Yeah,
2 hours of my time, an hour of my time, 30 minutes of my time, whatever. It's gone, and now I don't get paid. Like, and especially that's what you have to factor in with your pricing is, I want to get to a point where if a client does do that and I can't fill the slot, that it doesn't make me destitute.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there is that balance. And I always say too, like, you can always up your pricing later, but you can never lower your pricing.
No, because then the people that came in at the higher price are gonna question
why
you went down.
Right, and they're gonna be like, well, you said it was for cost, but was it really? So it's better to do $5 now, $2 now, whatever, and then do it again later if you really have to.
See, that's what I've been told differently.
Oh,
I have
really?
been told to never raise your prices less than $20.
Well, lashes, I think, might be a little different.
No, just in general.
Really? That's crazy. Because, like, it's, again, you don't want to do, like,
$1
every month.
Increases.
Right,
yeah,
you don't want to do $1 every month.
So, I mean, I guess if you never feel like you're going to need to raise them that much, like, within the next 2 years, maybe. Because I don't know, because, I mean, example, I'm trying to think. I think my most expensive set was $200, but my least expensive was $160. So I went from $160 and $200 just up to $220. And that hasn't caused a huge issue.
And I feel like this is something, this can be a whole other episode,
100%.
that the nail industry is slacking in, is because we still have people who charge $20 for nails. And some people, like, and yes, the client, like we've been saying, like, yes, your clients will find you. But if I raised all my prices by $20, I would probably lose about 80% of my clients.
How much did you raise them by last time?
5.
Oh.
Yeah. So if I raise them 5 this time, I think it'll be, like, you'll trickle off a few. I was debating 10 because 10 is also one that people are like, you should just do 10.
10 maybe in the nails makes more sense than 20. But yeah, my point is just, like, people have told me to do less price. Like, it's better to do a price increase of significance every 2 to 3, well, like every 3 to 4 years, instead of increasing your prices every 6 to 12 months.
See, that's interesting with so yeah, like, and that's the thing too, is you have to gauge
your clientele.
Because if I raise my pricing, like, I'm raising my pricing, whatever I'm raising it, once next year, I don't plan to raise it again. But if you only if you raised it, I don't know, again, you're paying $20 for your nails and you're like, okay, for me to make money, I have to raise it to $35. Okay, now, then you realize, hey, I didn't lose any clients and I could actually pay myself if I raised it to $45 or whatever. Then maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is like, yes, you don't want to do like $1 every month for the whole year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I've definitely heard like raising them twice in 1 year is better than raising it too much and not being able to go back.
Yeah, see, I've been told to not raise your prices more than once every 1 or 2
This
years.
is why it's important for us to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I set those prices September of we're in 2025 now, so September 2023. It's like just over a year ago, and I don't really plan on raising them for like probably another year. Maybe another 11
See,
months.
and this is even, again, good conversation. This is making me think. I originally wanted to do 10, and then I thought 10's going to be too much, so maybe I should just do 5, because 5 would make it safe. I know.
So you can afford to raise it by 10.
I
You're going to
know.
lose.
See, this is...
You have a wait list.
I know, but I'd be sad if I lose people. I know. See, we all deal with these conflicts.
I just told you that's 160 to 220. That's $60.
See, but this is what I'm talking about, is, again, a whole separate thing. We're going off topic with boundaries. But, Like, people come and see you 2 to 3 weeks, and they pay, if they're seeing you every 2 to 3 weeks, how much do they pay for, like, a fill?
Every 2 weeks, 85. Every 3 weeks, 105.
See? And then, like, I have clients who see me every 3 weeks, and they, for the services that they're doing for 3 weeks, like the structure gel, it's like 70, 75.
So you'd be raising it to 80, 85?
Yes.
I wouldn't question it.
Okay. This has been a good chat.
I've already talked to anybody about your pricing. I say you're too cheap. So.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is, like, it's hard to gauge because what I specialize in is hard to find.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there are still people who do it out of their house and they charge $20. So.
And I get that, but there's a certain number of people I would personally, no hate, I personally wouldn't go to somebody's house for a service.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what you're paying the premium for, is that you're going to somebody who has a studio.
And this is where the imposter syndrome sits in, and I go, but I'm not that good.
Go look at her Instagram page and leave a comment.
Tell me if you think my services are worth. Tell me in the comments what you think they're worth. I would love the trash talking.
I don't think any trash talking is going to come in.
Oh gosh. Yeah, okay, I'll think about it.
I still have...
This is happening in real time, folks. I'm questioning my decisions.
I still have days where I question my price increase, but hey, it's happened. And, like, I do get new clients. So I do know that the right clients are going to find me.
Yeah.
I would rather have clients finding me at a price point that is right for me and right for them than people finding price points that are right for them but aren't helping me at all.
It's so hard. Well, because that's the thing, too, is, like... There are some services, and maybe this is what I should do. There are some services that I don't need to raise $10. Like, they profit the most, but that's about 50% of my clientele versus, like, the structure gel that I get more of. And I like more people to do because I think it benefits, like, the nail health.
Yeah.
So then I don't want to charge crazy because I want people to do it. That's like my nail art. I'm raising my nail art prices. I haven't done that since I opened. And I didn't do it because I love doing nail art. And so I was like, well, I want people to get it so I can do it. So I don't want it to be. And then, like, I'll do something elaborate and they'll be like, it was only $10? And I'll be like, yeah, because it was fun. So I gotta stop, you know.
These are the boundaries we were talking about.
I know.
This episode has turned into a boundaries episode and not a balancing business and work life. My bad.
Oh man. Well, let's get off this topic and we can talk about how I like that we're having this though, because these are the conversations that it's like it's good to see, like, the thought processing in real life. Like, we obviously did not
100%. We're on totally different pages, and that's kind of eye-opening to see
it's
two different
interesting
perspectives.
though. Yeah. And I think too, just because, like, our industries are so different, like, obviously the classes you're taking or the advice, again, you said it was for just people telling you stuff, but, like, the advice I got from nail techs was you could always do it twice a year instead of once. And, like,
I also looked at it
also I'm curious if any finance people are like, yeah, Emma's crazy. Don't do that.
I'm also looking at it from a client standpoint. And if my hairdresser messaged me every 6 months with a price increase, I would probably stop going to her.
Yeah, I could see that.
I love you, Megan, but no, don't do that.
I mean, I think maybe I'm seeing it from, like, I'm going into my price increase to offset the cost that I need. And then in 6 months, if I'm like, oh, shoot, that actually didn't do as much as I needed it to, then that's why. But I wouldn't recommend doing that every year, every 6 months. Just, like, you know, as you're learning, maybe. I don't know. Or don't do it at all and listen to Jade.
I'm just doing what I was told, and it's worked thus far.
But what was starting this is this is the conflicting stuff that we get from different sides. Because I just took a class where one woman was like, oh, I swear by nail primer. And then another girl was like, I never use nail primer. It's awful. And I'm like, what do I listen to?
That happens with lash primer, too.
Right. Okay, so now we're segueing back. We're segueing back to boundaries in our personal life. How do you, like, I feel like you go out and you, like, make plans with your friends and stuff. I feel like that's pretty good.
The biggest struggle I've had with that is sometimes when I'm out. So I go out. I used to go out every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday night, which sounds crazy, but I have Thursday, Friday, Sunday off, so I promise it lines up. Now I pretty much only go out on Wednesday nights, but I did have it once where I went out, I think on a Saturday night, and I do, like, technically work during the day on Saturday, but I had a client, I think, call me around, I want to say 8, and I'd pulled up at the country club that I go to, and I didn't pick it up, and then she sent me like 3 text messages. But mind you, this is 8 p.m. on a Saturday, and I have Sunday off, but it's one of those conflicting things where I was sat there, and I was like, I want to stand my ground and stand my line of I am out, I am at this club, this is not my problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're pushing that boundary, and ironically, I don't have this client anymore. But when they're pushing that boundary so hard, you just get to a point of you feel guilty for ignoring them.
Yeah.
And it was about rescheduling her appointment that was on Monday. So I'm looking at it at this point, and I'm like, well, it is just over like 30 hours out. Like, she probably does need to know if I can move it. So I unfortunately had to sit there and pull up my work calendar and see what slots I had to offer her. Only for me to do all this work while I was out and about, and her to be like, oh, I'll just keep my appointment.
Yeah.
Lesson I learned from this is it can wait until the following morning.
It's hard, too, when it's within that window of them having, like, that deadline of them needing to reschedule before you charge them, which is hard, too, is like...
Well, I always qualify it like, hey, you texted me that night. Like, I won't charge you. It's not my fault I didn't reply. Like, you did let me know.
Yeah. I feel, like, again, from my perspective of overthinker, if I was the client... and it's me, I would be like, oh my God, I don't know if she's going to count it. But if you honor it and they know, then.
No, I always honor it. It's not their fault if I don't A, see it, or B, reply.
But I just had something like that too. I have my phone app turned off because I'm on vacation. And I had a client who was like, yeah, your website's down and I'm just trying to like book a pedicure. And I was like, crap, she is going on a trip and like that week is filling up. I should probably send her my temporary link so she can book. So that's all I did though. I didn't like schedule it for her. I was like, here's my link. Here's the proper thing. You can book it. She never booked it. Still hasn't.
Probably what I should have done is just send her the link. But
well, and sometimes it's harder with like rescheduling. I don't know how. I think you use Gloss Genius, right?
Yeah.
Square sometimes, if it's within my cancellation window, even though I would still allow it, it won't let them reschedule it. So
I think I have. Oh yeah, so it wouldn't have worked for her because I think I have mine set at 3 days just because I want that 3-day notice. Like my cancellation fee is 24 hours, but I do want that 3-day notice that if they do cancel it online, that I can reach out and see if somebody else wants it.
I also set mine to higher than what I typically allow people. Don't tell anyone. Again, depending on the circumstances, just because I want people to reach out to me.
Exactly. I want them to send me a text.
And like give me a reason, kind of a little bit. Like I kind of want, like if it's past 48 hours and you've already confirmed your appointment because it sends a text, then I want to know, are you sick?
I used to have it so they couldn't cancel or reschedule online just because I wanted to be hyper aware of why they were canceling and rescheduling. So I used to have it so they couldn't do any of that online, but then I realized I had to loosen the reins and let people live, and I didn't need to know everything.
And it lets you live. It lets you live. Yeah, that's why it's so good to have some sort of software to help with these boundaries back here again. Because like I see people all the time who are like, oh, I'm getting busier and I have all these messages and it's taking me too long to schedule people and I accidentally double book. Like get a website, like get a online booking. It also helps people who are like me and don't like to call or reach out to people first, like look at your pricing and look at your availability and see if you're even going to be a good fit to start.
Yeah. It just adds to the professional level.
Yeah. I think that's important.
But
is
it
to
is
have
a
some
huge
sort
help
of
for the
booking.
Like work personal life balance, because if somebody does shoot you, like especially new clients, I want them to book online anyways because then their card's on file.
Yep.
And I get it, that sounds scary to some of you out there having your clients put their card on file, but I promise you that's what you want, because if they don't do that, they're most likely going to no-show, just from personal experience.
And deposits are sketchy sometimes.
Yeah. And I promise the right people will literally not even question putting their card on file because they know how appointments work. Anybody who questions it, I really question if they've ever had an appointment anywhere.
I know.
Because you pretty much have to put a card on file or give a deposit for anything nowadays.
Yeah, I see so many people who do the deposit thing, but then they come back and they're like, oh my gosh, she like did something with her card, like contacted her bank and got my deposit revoked because like the card companies will always take the side of that person. So at least if you have...
That is the one reason I recommend Gloss Genius, though. They will fight for you.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, almost everything is successful.
Side note, again, can be another episode. I have tried Gloss Genius 3 times now, and I hate it.
They're revamping it next year. I can finally have packages and memberships.
Oh. Do you do the fancy one, though? Because
That's what I'm paying for in the new year. Because it's worth it. Because then I have online waivers and everything.
Yeah, see, and I pay the same, less than what their premium one is now. And I have the waiver, like I can send out waivers, but I do like a contract for when I have to send people a link to get their card on file and blah, blah, blah. And like the text messages and everything, and I pay like $10 less, and I like the layout better. So that's why every time I hear like Jade or one of our other friends who uses Gloss Genius talk about it, I'm like, I'm just gonna try it. And I've used my free trial, so I have to pay for it. And then I get in there and I'm like, I hate this.
That's funny. I wouldn't use anything else. I love it. Yeah, it's made my life so much easier.
A lot of people love it, but I just can't. I use Square right now, and I'm transitioning. My website will be Google. Which again brings my price down even more. So now I'm paying like even less than all of that. But
I think the primary reason I like Gloss Genius is because of how much they have to help specifically beauty professionals, since it's aimed at only beauty professionals. So I just like all the different things they have aimed at that.
Yeah, I don't know. Just not for me.
I'm hoping they'll add an online store. We're not there yet.
Yeah, I wish, like, there's just more settings that I feel like I could do in Square on my end for, like, my clients to see. Like, my descriptions are long because I've had way too many people book the wrong thing, and even though it would say, reach out to me for questions, they wouldn't. And that was one of the things I remembered now trying Gloss Genius this last time, is it wouldn't let me fit it. It wouldn't let me fit it, and it's not even like, I think it was because their character thing in their bios for services is like 250 characters, and mine was like 300.
That's because it's noted that people don't read more than that.
In
hindsight, it is done for the right reason, as annoying as
but
it is.
I've had less people booking wrong services, so I don't want to change anything.
That's fair.
That's just me. And I like to read, because again, coming from an introverted person's perspective of if I went to book, I would read the entire paragraph because I don't want to ask anyone questions.
There's just too many people out there who don't. But I don't know.
Again, I've had less people. I've had people who will, when they book, they put in their notes like, oh, I was unsure what to book, and then I realized this is probably what I should book because of the description. And I'm like, cool, thanks. I'm glad that I didn't have to deal with that. But anyways, back to boundaries in our personal life. I feel like it's important to like still make plans with people outside of work and not get sucked into that whole work and sleep and eat and work and sleep and eat.
Oh, definitely.
And that's why it's like, even if it's just the one day, even if you work all the other 6 days, have one day where you always know that your doctor's appointments or your grocery shopping or whatever can get done. Beauty school tells you to work every weekend. You can figure out.
You don't have to work every weekend.
Well, and again, like, gauge your clients. Before I changed my schedule this past year, I asked my existing clients, if you could pick 2 days out of the week that you would come, what days would they be? And I gave them the whole week, and I was like, okay, I'll change it to the most popular. I had 2 clients that wanted Saturday as one of their 2 days, but they had another day that they could do.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, why am I going to open on Saturday if nobody wants Saturday? And to this day, like I was just saying, most of my clients don't prefer Saturday. So cool. Yeah. Now I don't have to work Saturday.
Yeah.
And I probably never will. Unless I have to squeeze somebody in the morning. But
no, I'm okay working Saturdays, but you'll never find me working a Sunday.
Yeah. And it's hard too, like, having that. Like, I even joined a networking group that meets once a month because I was like, this will get me out of the house with other women who are doing business, and I'm the youngest one there. And I am actually, I think now I'm the only beauty professional in it too. And now that I'm booked, I don't even really need networking because I didn't get any of my clients from them. But I was like, no, this still gets you like doing something out of the routine once a month, and you're still like getting out and doing doing something else, you know, not just home, sleep, work, movie night. Like,
no, like Monday nights I go to my simple church, so I see like all my girls there. Wednesday night I go dancing, and then I'm wanting to add back in like Saturday nights.
That's so much though. I would be exhausted.
I've just started to add like friend time back in.
Yeah.
Because, like, you do definitely, like, struggle, I feel like, with friendships when you own your own business, because it's just hard to get that balance. And especially, no offense, to the friends that don't run their business, like, run a business, they don't understand the mindset, because it's a different mindset. And, like, I feel like even though I've been in business for almost 3 years, you're still constantly adjusting and learning what the proper mindset is, because it is just so different from your typical day-to-day.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those boundaries of learning how to properly communicate with those friends who don't have a business, like, on what's going on.
I mean, even my boyfriend, I'll like get on my phone and he'll be like, what are you doing? Because I try to make a point to not be on my phone around him.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, I have to respond to some work things really quick. And he's like, what? Because he's the type of guy who like goes to work, works, and then leaves it at the door. Like, he does not want to talk about work or think about work when he comes home. And we had joked about one point about like, don't you want to do something that would like help my business? And he was like, no, because I don't want to work all the time.
I don't want to have to work from home.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to have to like come in on a Saturday to like fix your light bulbs and stuff. I'm like, okay. I mean, he would, but like, I get what he means. Like, he's just a very like, I'm gonna
isolate things out.
Very compartmentalized. And
and you can't do that.
And even if going out 3 times a week is too much, like, I have a set of friends and we used to work together, and we try to do just things like every few months we're like, hey, we're having a girls' night, and we're gonna pick a day that everyone can drink a lot, or we're gonna pick a day where we can stay up really late and we're gonna like watch movies and eat food and do, you know, something. We did Spooky Girls Night last year, and that was a lot of fun. And we White Elephant this year, or this last year, or whatever. Yeah. So I think it's important to don't let people tell you not to have boundaries, and don't let people tell you have to work all the time. Yeah. You just have to find like that balance for you. I mean, I know people who they work the morning of every day, and then their afternoons, that's it. Like, they have their hard stop, and that works for them and the clientele that they have. And
this is about figuring out what works for you. And that's what's going to create the best like work-life balance, is when you've managed, because you run your own business. So like when you've managed to get your schedule to suit you, that's what's going to give you the best work-life balance. And I feel like to a degree I'm still trying to figure that out, because I start at 10 a.m. on my weekdays that I work right now. And ideally I'd like to start a little bit later, because I like going to the gym in the morning, and I don't really like the idea of going to the gym at 6:30.
It's hard. That's why I don't go to the gym.
But
I mean, in the morning.
The caveat is I don't want to work past 6 p.m. So at that point I have to start at 10 a.m.
Well, again, at a point, hopefully we would all be able to get to a pricing where you could work 11 to 6.
Yeah, and that would ideally work. Yeah. And
it would be, because there are times too, like, I'm realizing, because I was really used to salon life. I was used to a 4:10 schedule, and we had to go in an hour earlier, and then we were there all day. And so I knew I didn't want to do that when I went out on my own, because it was a lot, and I was exhausted all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is, like, I'll have a day that I come in later and stay later, which I do like that day, because it's also worked out with just, like, everyone else's schedule, that's, like, kind of everyone else's late day. And as I've worked and figured out more, I think ideally my start time would actually be 10. Mm-hmm. I forgot I had my microphone on. My time ideally would actually be, like, 10, because by then it's like I can wake up at 8 and like work out and do all my stuff and take my shower and like get my food ready, and I don't feel rushed.
Yeah.
Versus going in on the days when I have to go in at 9, I'm like, I don't want to wake up even at 7. Like, I don't even want to do that. So eventually I would also like to kind of cut my hours. And you'll be surprised too. Like, clients ask me all the time, oh, how many people do you fit in a day? And I don't even feel like I fit in that many people. I think like I typically will fit in 4 to 6 depending on the service.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm like, what? Your service is an
you
hour and a half.
Service like 8 people.
Right. And I'm also like, and your service is an hour and a half at most, unless you're Jade and we do model stuff. But that's crazy. You think I only take 2 people, like, and, or when I tell people my hours, that I basically work 40 hours a week still, they're like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm like, I have to get paid, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
I don't make that much an hour right now after expenses and rent. Like,
And people
rent is
forget
crazy.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me crazy. I'm like, not all this money goes into my pocket. There's so many expenses, which is a whole other episode.
Yeah. We definitely got off track with this.
Yeah, we did. So we definitely need to do an actual episode on balancing business and
I
personal
know.
life.
I think we'll have to.
Because I feel like we missed a lot.
We missed a lot. This one is definitely going to be more. This one's definitely more boundaries.
It's just boundaries.
Straight boundaries.
Yeah.
We could talk about boundaries forever.
Oh, 100%. Because I think it's something we're both learning and growing with every single year in our personal and business life.
I feel like this was a really good episode, though. Because I
Yeah.
feel like we talked about a lot of things that, like, even just me learning about what people have told you.
Prices. Yeah. No, there's so much. And I feel like raising prices can be a whole, like, the finance side can be a whole episode. There's so much when it comes down to it.
Even more. I know.
And I think we could do a whole other episode on more boundaries that are both like business and personal, because there's just so many that are so important to have.
Yep.
But we'll wrap that up here because we've been yapping for about an hour now.
I know.
So
we thought this was going to be a short one.
We did going into it, and that's when we thought we were talking
Our
about
notes are not very long.
Business and personal life.
Yeah.
But we're good at finding tangents, and that might be the majority of our podcast. So get ready for a roller coaster.
It's great. And anyways, we'll see you guys next time.
See you guys next time. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on all platforms. All the links will be below. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.